Hi, I'm Barbara Cavadius. I'm the Community Share Farm Morristown Group Coordinator, and I'm making some videos to help people figure out what to do with all their roots. So I made a video the other day on making split pea soup we used celeriac, we used parsnip, carrots, sweet potato. I realized afterwards I could have put garlic in, I forgot. Anyhow, so I made a split pea barley soup. Today, we're going to do something very different. We're going to make pickled turnips. And pickled turnips is something that is common to Middle Eastern cooking. Lebanon, Syria, Morocco, Israel, just that whole part of Syria. Did I say Syria? That part of the world. People use it, they serve it at their table, they serve it with hummus, they serve it in where I really like it is inside of my falafel sandwiches. You can just eat it. It's very, very nice. You can make it kosher for Passover. You can make it, doesn't matter. I looked at a lot of different recipes, and it's my first time making it. We'll see how it all comes out. But there's the salt people. People use only salt brine, and people use a vinegar brine with a lot less salt. I'm going to do something in the middle because neither option sounds great to me. So I'm using a little less salt than you might normally use because it would be a lot of salt. But I'm also going to use less vinegar because I don't want a vinegary taste. So I want it to really be a brine. I looked at lots of recipes. I kind of settled on this one from, I don't know if you can see it because the way the angles, I don't know if you see it properly or not, but it's Jewish cooking from around the world. It's a really, really nice cookbook. It has lots of different recipes. I enjoy it. And some kind of riffing off of that to make this. So we're going to first start the brine. I actually am using, the recipe calls for 1 cup of turnips, 1 pound rather of turnips. I have like 2.5 pounds, a little more than 2.5. So I'm adjusting things because I want to make nice big jars because to me, it's just a beautiful thing to see that. So I already put my water in here. I put some vinegar in here. This is the salt. Look at all that salt. For each pound, it calls for 4 tablespoons of salt. And so I have almost not quite 3 pounds, but I'm still using the amount as if I just had 2 pounds and instead with vinegar. And so I'll put that in, kind of shake it in the water. And we're going to start heating up this brine while we're doing the rest. And then it calls for a little bit of sugar. I use organic sugar. I'm just going to put, you don't want it very sweet, but it kind of marries the flavors together for you a little bit. So I'm just going to put 1 tablespoon of sugar in here for the whole batch. And then we'll start it cooking because we're going to be putting things into our jars and then pouring hot brine onto the jars. And I'm not sure how many jars I'll be making because I'm not sure how this will all cut up. So we're going to do 1 jar, and then if we have enough turnips and beets, we're going to use the 2nd jar. So there's the part of what makes these pickled beets really fabulous is that they're very neon pink. And why are they neon pink? Because beets are in them. So you also get some pickled beets out of this. Now some people just use like a couple pieces of it and you get a pale pink. I'm actually going to use basically 1 beet for each pound. And so then I have 1 good-sized beet and I have 2 smaller beets. I might just use the great big one and then the next big one and then see how I do with quantities. So I'm just going to start by putting in the spices into my jar first, and then we'll start cutting. So it calls for 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. I like garlic. So I'm going for each pound. So I'm going to use 5 to start in here. I don't know how much of my turnips will fit in one jar, so we're going to just start with 5 and then see how we do. So 3, 4, and the best way I think to do the garlic, I took some of the outer skin off, and the way that some of them call for slicing it, some call for the whole thing, but I'm leaving it whole, but they're a little smashed because to me that's the easiest way to peel them. So you cut the end of the garlic off, and then you lay it down flat on your cutting board, and you take a nice good knife and you lean on it. And when you lean on it, it kind of smashes the garlic a little bit, and then you're able to just take the skin right off. So let me show you. I'm just going to cut the end off. And you want to make sure you get the whole end. Because we're pickling, and we're going to be pickling, it's going to be sitting on the shelf for a couple weeks pickling, because it's a salt brine. You don't want anything bad to go in there. So see, I cut the end off. And now I'm going to just take my knife and lean on it. It may take 2 hands, depending on the size of your garlic. But watch, and the peel comes right off like magic. It's like amazing. It's a great trick, because I don't know about you, but sometimes it's very tiresome trying to peel a garlic. So you put in the 5 things of garlic. Sometimes pickles can get cloudy, so one of the things you have to do is you have to use kosher salt. You cannot use iodized salt. You can't use salt with any additives. Some people use sea salt. I've never done that with pickling, so I didn't want to start with this one. But kosher salt is a very pure salt, and so you can use that. But still, the other thing is you need a leaf in your pickle jar. Now, some people use grape leaves, tea leaves. You need something with some like tannin in it. I think it's the tannin, and it somehow clarifies it. It clarifies the taste, clarifies the color, makes it nice and clear. So I'm going to use a bay leaf, so we'll put the bay leaf in there. It calls for 6 coriander seeds. You see that for each pound, so if you can see the coriander seeds. And I'm going to, let's just see how we do here. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to use a couple more because I think I'm going to get more than 1 pound in here. So put some coriander seeds in there. And then I wanted to put, I'm going to put a clove in because I like cloves. I think it adds a nice little flavor. So I'll put a couple cloves in. Use the whole cloves, don't use the powder, right? All of these, you want to use the whole thing because otherwise the, oh, I can't open this. Oh my goodness, this jar got really tough. Okay, this is star anise. It's a nice anisey flavor. I'll add some nice flavor, and then just because, maybe that's enough. I could put a cardamom pod in there. You know what? I think I have enough flavor with that. Star anise, it's nice and big. So that gives us some flavor in here. And then I already washed the turnips. Because these turnips are grown in clean soil, they're not, no chemicals used. I'm not going to peel them. If you were using store-bought turnips, why would you? But if you were using store-bought turnips, then you wouldn't. You would probably have to peel them. And because you're pickling, remember you don't want any blemish areas. So as I look at this, here's a little hole. So I'm going to cut where that hole is, just in case there's a problem, because you don't want to add any bacteria or things like that to your pickle. So see, I cut it out and there's nothing there, so that's great. So there's lots of shapes. Sometimes I've seen these pickles in like quarter rounds, and sometimes I've seen them in sticks. I'm going to do the sticks, at least for 1 jar. If we're able to do 2 jars, then I might change for the second jar. And I've cut both ends off, so I'm going to put it on the top end where the leaves had been, right? The leaves were there. So that makes a nice flat surface. So I'll start from there. And, oops, here we go. And I'll cut, and so you think how, you don't want it too flimsy because you want to be able to have it as a pickle tray, right? Or you want to be able to use it to dip into hummus or put it in your falafel, but you don't want it too thick because if it's too thick it's awkward. And so we're going to make sticks. So see a stick? It's like that, so wedgie sticks. So we'll just put them directly in our jar as we go. And we're going to fill this jar with these turnips. It's very exciting. And what I'll do is I'll do a turnip and then I'll do a beet. And then we'll do more turnip. How's that? And I might need more jars. I don't know. I wasn't sure how they would fit in here. And some people line it up and do it like that. To be honest, I'm not going to do that. Maybe you can get more in if you do that, but I don't think so. And that's one turnip. It's done this much. Maybe I'll do another turnip, and then I'll add the beet. So again, we'll cut the bottom off. We'll cut the top end. See, like when I look there, I see some dark blemishes there. So, because I see that, I'm going to take another slice, and that's as deep as it went, because I don't want any blemishes and introducing any bacteria. And then I'm going to make, I'm going to actually cut from a different direction, because this would make, because see how this is shaped? It would make for very short little sticks. I don't like the idea of that. So I'm going to instead hold it on its side, and I'm going to cut slices that way so I can make some longer sticks, because I don't think it's too pleasing to have really short sticks on your table like that. And if any of them don't cut well, I know I can leave the turnip for my husband just to eat. He eats them like apples, which isn't something I would do, but he enjoys it. So put those sticks there. And if they're not, it doesn't have to be perfect shapes. Look, it's a vegetable. It grows in all different directions. So now we'll cut a beet up in there. This beet is awfully big. So I'm going to cut totally the end off that beet. I'm going to cut the root end off the beet. Now, I noticed this looks like it had probably some rocks or something growing there when it was growing. See all those fissures? I'm just going to cut that right off. Because again, there's a possibility there could be some bacteria that had gotten in there. So, I'm going to cut down from the top, and then I'll make some beet sticks. And one, I'll get pickled beets, which is always very tasty. And two, it's going to make a very nice color in here. But I don't want the whole jar to be filled with these. Maybe I won't put the whole beet. As I'm looking at it, you can see I've got quite a bit of beet in there. So rather than making the whole thing, too much beet in there, I'm going to add this to the next jar. And I'm going to start with another turnip. I think I can get 2 jars out of this. That's very exciting. It's going to be, it looks very, they actually they say to put it in a sunny spot to do its first pickling. And again, this is a shorter, squatter turnip. So we're going to cut from its side. Make slices. I made a slice like this. But then when I make it in sticks, it'll be a more pleasing size for me. And you just have to be careful when you're cutting a turnip that's rounded like that, because since it's not flat, it's not a straight surface to cut on. So you just have to be careful for your fingers. If you notice, I'm not looking at you all the time. I'm looking at what I'm doing. So get that right in there. And cut that up. And okay, I've kind of filled this jar. But just push it down in there. And then maybe I'll get the rest of that beet in there after all. Or at least let's see how much of it I get in there. I'll just fill it right at the top. Okay, so I've got a jar full of turnips and beets. And this is coming to a boil. This just good. We'll just let it come to a boil and then we'll turn it off. We'll start filling this jar. And I already have 1, 2, 3, 4. I just need one more garlic. So again, now this garlic is sprouting a little bit, but I don't think that's going to hurt anything. So I'm going to still use it even though it's starting to sprout, as long as it's not rotting on the inside, which it doesn't appear to be. It's just beginning to sprout. So again, I cut the end off. I'm putting it down flat on the cutting board. I'm putting the knife on it. I'm putting 2 hands, and I'm kind of leaning and rocking a little bit to just crush it a little bit. And when I do that, the skin comes right off. So, because I don't know, I hate peeling garlic until I found this trick. So I'm just going to throw that in there, and I'm going to throw my coriander seeds, and I'm going to put my bay leaf and my star anise in there. You can just imagine what this smells like. It really smells great in here, and this is going to be very, very tasty. Pickles. So I want a bigger leaf than that. Okay, put bay leaf in there. This is coming to a boil. I'll turn it off because we're going to go pretty fast. So let's start cutting turnips. Sometimes if you go to like the Drew's Village, so here, this is a nice tall one, so I'm going to just cut from the top. When you go to Drew's Village, like to a store, sometimes you'll see these beautiful jars lined up on the shelf full of these pickled turnips, and they just look beautiful. I have to say, I can't wait. But so apparently what you do is that you leave it in a warm spot, even a sunny spot, to do this initial fermentation. And it takes about, you can do it for just a week, and every few days you're supposed to tilt the jar and, or flip it, but give it a chance to distribute the color and the spices. But I'm going to probably do it for the full 2 weeks, and then you refrigerate it. You can supposedly just leave it in the jar on the shelf. I'll see how brave I am. But I know I can refrigerate it, and they say that it'll keep for up to a year inside of here with pickled like this. You can put also other vegetables in here. Now I think this is tall enough to make the sticks I want. It's just kind of on the border, but we're going to go for it like this. You can put other vegetables in here, like people do. And this method of pickling is apparently often used as well with aubergine or eggplant. You can do cauliflower like this. I wouldn't do cauliflower all by itself, but if you mix it like with the turnips and the beets, I think you'd be okay. And in fact, if I don't have enough to fill this jar, I thought I do have some cauliflower, and I thought I would fill in with cauliflower. I think I'll be okay. What else can you pickle? I saw a list of other things. So you could try, you could experiment and try other things. This is a similar method. At the farm, we get like a natural sauerkraut where it's just grated cabbage, salted, and then naturally fermented. It's delicious. I like to use it on, now I'm going to use a beet before I do the final turnip. So this is a good beet. I like to get the Boca burgers that are chicken, like the fake chicken ones. And so I cook those up and then I serve it with ketchup and the sauerkraut. It's delicious. And sometimes I put Swiss cheese or something on it. I want to change it up. And it's kind of like a Reuben, I guess, or something. I don't know. But it's delicious. It's a delicious combination. And, you can also just eat it just any way that you do normally with sauerkraut. But it's naturally fermented. It's really good for you. And so this is really something very similar. All these things with the salted and natural fermentation, I think it's kind of almost like a probiotic sort of thing. I'm not exactly sure. But I do know they are delicious. So I'm going to get this beet in here, and then we'll do the final turnip. I actually have been saving my turnips, trying to keep them from my husband. And then a friend, one of our share members, gave me her turnips because she was getting a little behind in using stuff, so that I'd have enough to do what I thought I could do for 2 jars. Now here, this is a little short, so I'm going to cut it from the other direction. In the summer, we get little baby beets, like turnips rather, like fresh in the season. But we often don't get beets at the same time. Sometimes we might have some leftover beet from the winter. But I've been wanting to make this for a while. Actually, ever since I came back from Israel last winter, I was there, and I just been dying to make this. So thank you for indulging me. But now you have an idea of what to do with another one of your root vegetables. And this is going to fill the jar exactly perfectly. And that's turnips. You can do this in a smaller jar. You don't have to do it in great big jars like this. I just really wanted to use these jars. I poured after I washed them, I poured boiling water in them to sterilize them. And okay, so here's my jar number 2. Full of vegetable. So we're going to bring that brine over, and hopefully it'll fill it all up. Okay. Oh, I have to pour it. Luckily I have good counters so that I may have to make more brine. That's interesting. I have a little bit on the counter, but it's not the end of the world. And I will have to make some more brine, but this was pretty strong brine. So, oh, and the other thing is when you make your brine, you shouldn't use, oh, it smells good. You shouldn't use chlorinated water, because that will also make it cloudy and make a bad taste. So you should use filtered water or spring water. So I'm going to use some filtered water. Let me go get some filtered water from the refrigerator. Hang on a second, because it takes out the chlorine. And I need, wow. Okay, I have 2 more cups of water. I'm hesitant to use more salt. So I'm going to put the water in there. I'm actually going to pour some of this brine out because I want to keep the salt ratio. I think there was plenty of salt. So I'm going to make these 2 jars be about the same height so that I keep the same amount of salt ratio in there and vinegar. And yes, I'm going to have to clean my kitchen after this. So I have the 2 jars at about the same level. I'm going to crank this up and then I'll top it because I think I had plenty of salt for this much, so for this many turnips, and I had plenty of sugar, and I think I even had plenty of vinegar. Honestly, I didn't need the second beet, the third beet. You can see it's already starting to turn color. So I'm going to heat that water up, and then I'll start pouring it back in here and top these both up, and then I'll close them. But you can see what I did to make sure since I had plenty of salt for this amount of turnips, I'm not adding more salt, I just needed more liquid. But I want to make sure that the salt ratio is the same in both of the jars. So that's why I took out liquid and poured it back into there to make both of these have the same ratio between them and to make sure that we stay the same amount. I don't know if you want to stay on while I heat this water and then pour it so you can see the finished jar. But I don't want to close it up until I have a full amount. So I wish we were live and then you could just ask me questions while I'm stalling here and waiting for that water to come to a boil. I'm cleaning up some of the spill that I made. I guess I'm not that good at pouring from a big thing like that. And I probably don't have to I don't have to bring it to a full boil. I just have to have it hot. Because some people use even just cold water. And actually I'm not dissolving any sugar or salt. So I really don't need to heat it up that much. But I don't want to I think it'll mix better if they're both kind of the same temperature, if it's all the same temperature. But it's already bubbling at the bottom, so I'm going to take it out. Okay. So I'm going to top. You know, maybe if I pour this into the measuring cup, I'll be able to pour it more easily. I'll just do this over this thing. Okay, that makes sense. And hopefully I won't spill as much. I'll still spill some. Now the other thing is I've kind of topped these off. Of course now I have a little extra. But I also want to make sure I get my air bubbles out. Oh, I knew there was a reason I stalled and kept you here. So you do want to kind of take a spatula, clean spatula, and kind of just run it down the sides a little bit to make sure that there's no air pockets in there. And do the same here. And a little air did come out. This did get a little lower. And I do want to push these vegetables down in there so they really soak in. So let's just take a look. I'm going to close this one and turn it a little bit. I'm shaking it a little bit and some air pockets are coming up from down below. So to some extent, I'm just kind of doing a twisting motion like this on the from the cutting board and just trying to make sure I have no little air pockets. And I'm going to push down again. And then I'm probably going to put some more liquid in here to make sure it kind of goes to the top. And I'm going to partially close this one and do the same kind of thing. Right, turn it, turn it. You can see I'm just kind of doing a twisting, and looking for air bubbles coming up. And these are great jars. I really love them. I've been wanting to use them for this. They're from IKEA. They're just like canning jars, and they're the kind with the rubber gaskets, which are hard to find these days. I thought they'd be perfect for making the pickles. And okay, so I'm going to push it down again. Make sure I've gotten any other additional air pockets out. And then I'll top it off with the liquid. Push it down in there. Yeah. So there was enough air that I was able to top them both off. And I have another gasket over here. Okay, so I'll put my gasket on. So this makes a nice seal when you have the air gasket, the rubber gasket like this. So it just helps you make a better seal. Of course, if I can get it on, it makes a better seal. Okay, keeps popping up off. Okay, there we go. And I'll just close it up. And it's got a, I'll show you in a minute. It's a little gasket thing. And then, okay, so there's jar number 1. This jar number 2. And over the next 2 weeks, I'll be turning them every few days. And I will share a picture on our Facebook page for the farm group and show you the finished product when it's done. Okay, so there you go. Something to do with your turnips, something a lot of fun, something very tasty, something that you maybe wouldn't see in the stores here. So I hope you enjoy it, and I will be doing more with our farm root veggies to give you ideas of what to do with them, because there's plenty to do. Bye. Oh, and if you like the videos, if you like our videos, please share them. Let other people know about all the great things you can do with organic veggies and your farm share. If you want to like our Facebook page, that's great too. And if you're thinking about joining our CSA, the membership applications have gone out for this coming year. They have a new platform, so everybody has to join again. But it's important that you do it as soon as possible. Last year, we totally sold out our entire shares at the farm, and we had a waiting list of people who wanted to get in. So I think the pandemic helped people realize how important it was to cook at home and to have locally grown food that you could count on and that you knew was safe, and you knew the people who were growing it and harvesting it, that they were taking all the care they needed to do to make sure they didn't make us sick. And so if you're interested in doing a farm share, I encourage you to do it right away. Okay, thanks so much, and I will talk to you soon.